Hello and welcome to the course on C Programming Learn to Code series. This is the second lecture of Unit 2, and in this lecture we are going to introduce another interesting factor about C programming, and that is called the Chronicle of C programming language. So we will try to introduce the history of C over here, which is quite interesting one, and you need to learn this properly so that you can love the language. Okay, so let's begin with the history of C. So first, in the first slide itself, I will like to introduce a lab that is called Bell Lab, which is situated in your America. So this is sometimes the Bell Lab is nothing but this is known as the American Industrial Research and Scientific Development Company. Okay, and it is owned by your Finnish company Nokia. Finnish means your Finland based company. So Nokia is the owner of that particular Bell Lab. There are several names to this Bell Lab, so I recommend all of you can go to this link, that is your Wikipedia link, where you can know much about this Bell Lab. But I will introduce the interesting fact about this Bell Lab, because every development has begun from this lab only. So that's why I will recommend that you should read this particular page present in your Wikipedia. Okay, so this Bell Lab there are several researchers working on this Bell Lab, and they have developed huge content. Means there are several content has been developed by several interesting facts has been developed in the lab itself. So those are including radio astronomy, transistor laser, photovoltaic cell, charge coupled devices, information theory. So what is our concern is our concern as a computer engineer, we should know that these developments like your Unix operating system, B language, C language, C++ language, and S language. So these are the contribution from this Bell Lab itself. Okay, so due to this development, Bell Lab got 9 Nobel Prizes awarded for different development of this interesting features, means interesting languages they have developed. So they got 9 Nobel Prizes for that particular development. Okay, so it is not only possible, it is not possible with the help of great peoples or great minds. So there are several great minds that those I want to introduce over here. Before that, we should understand what is means what a C programming language is. So our concern is only on the C programming language. So C programming language is known as the general purpose procedural programming language. Here procedure means your we can say it is a collection of different functions. So every functions performs different operations. So when we collect all these functions and make a program, that is a called procedural programming language or procedural programming language. Okay, so it is built in Bell Lab by a person, or we can say great scientist, whose name is Dennis Ritchie, and it is developed in between 1972 and 1973. Okay, it is used to re-implement the kernel of Unix operating system. This is the fast operating system whose kernel is actually written in C programming language rather than an assembly level language. Okay. During 1980, C gains its popularity, and it is then standardized by ANSI. This is known as American National Standard Institute, and ISO, that is International Organization of Standardization, in the year 1989, and popularly known as ANSI C. Okay, so you might have heard some books where the ANSI C is on ANSI C. You can say that this is the standardized book that will be using the ANSI standard of the code. Okay, so we will read about the standards of C programming in the coming lecture, in the part 2 of this lecture. But now you just understand what is C and how it is developed. Okay, so there are great people, as I have already told you, great minds. Those are involved in development of this Unix OS, or that may be C programming language. So one of the great mind will be, I want to introduce here, Dennis McAllister Ritchie. So popularly known as Dennis Ritchie, who has developed this language, that is C programming language. Okay, though it is assumed that there will be two developers for this, but the second developer, whose name is called Brian Carnigan, who uh, who is who is along with your Dennis Ritchie, they both are writing a book on C programming, and they developed that particular language. But later on, Brian Kernighan says that they have no role on developing on C programming language. It is the work of your Dennis Ritchie. Okay. So this person is also working inside the Bell Lab along with your Dennis Ritchie and another person who is known as Ken Thompson. So here this is Ken. He is Ken Thompson in the left side. The right side is the Dennis Ritchie. So they both, along with your Brian Kernighan, all these three person are working on the Bell Lab, and they have developed several interesting things like your C programming, then your Unix operating system, and so on. Okay, so the short history of your C programming language is like this. Unix OS and C are developed closely to each other, means they are actually simultaneously built up. Okay, so history is something like this. Ken Thompson, whose picture I have already shown you, he's trying to build a Unix OS, and obviously that time every operating system is actually implemented by the help of assembly level language. And obviously in 1970 the Unix OS is also built with that assembly language only, and it is get implemented on a mini computer that is called PDP-7. You can find out the architecture of PDP-7 on the Wikipedia itself. You can go and search for PDP-7. You will find the history of that particular computer. So Ken Thompson is wanted to build a operating system that is Unix. Means written a operating system with assembly level language and try to build it on your PDP-7. After he has built the kernel means that is the core of that operating system. Every times any operating system is built, first the core is written properly, means the programming for core is written properly, then every other features get added. So that other features are sometimes called utilities. So after developing, the Ken Thompson has developed Unix OS. He wanted a programming language which will be help him to create some utilities for the Unix operating system. But that time no programming language, means there are programming languages exist like Fortran and COBOL or something like that, but they are not up to the mark, and that cannot be implemented, and that cannot be properly used for building the Unix OS. Okay, so that time one language is called the BCPL language was exist. By reading that concept of BCPL, which is not standardized at that time, so reading that content of BCPL, Ken Thompson had developed a new language that is called B language, and using that B language he is trying to implement some utilities of Unix operating system. But it is not compatible with PDP-7 architecture. That's why B language was not been popularly used inside the Unix OS. So Dennis Ritchie, who is a means we can say partner of that Unix operating system or development of programming language, he started working on or trying to improve the concept of B, that is a programming language, and finally created a language and named them as C language. Okay, so it was developed in between 1972 started the working, and might be in 1973 he has completed the work of C language. And after completing this in 1973, C programming language got every features or some excellent features, and the Unix kernel is re-implemented in C. So this Unix kernel is actually the first operating system's kernel which is written in C rather than any assembly level language, because at that time every operating system is generally written in assembly level language, but after development of C in 1973 the entire Unix kernel is written in C language. Okay, so during the development of C programming language, actually two persons are involved in this feature, the C language, that is called Brian Kernighan and your Dennis Ritchie. But later on, Brian Kernighan says that they have no role, means he has no role on development of C programming language. So the creator of C programming is generally treated as the Dennis Ritchie. Okay, so that's all for the today's class. There is a part 2 of this Chronicle of C language. We will meet in the next class. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.